Collector here. So today I'm gonna be doing a really different video because this is a topic that I see a lot of people talk about, but I've never actually seen someone try to make before. The top 10 worst Halloween animatronics. So I thought it'd be interesting, and I went through a lot of research, I had to look through a lot of old pictures and kind of remember the worst ones, but I think I did a pretty good job with this list. So if you think there's one I missed, let me know in the comments, and if there's one that you disagree with, let me know and why. So before we start, just want to go over here we go. Okay. So these are the requirements for the prop to make the list. Number one, it had to have been sold in stores. Because there are props that are sold at like CVS, Walgreens and such, and like weird stores like that, like random online retailers like party shops and all. Those don't count. That's not fair. I can't go looking through 100 different websites to try to find a prop. Okay, number two, it had to have been released. Obviously, no prototypes. That's not fair to judge a prototype, even if it is terrible. And if I was gonna be doing prototypes, then the Morbid Enterprises clown, the Butler clown from the 2020 Expo, where the baby comes out of its chest. I'll actually pull up a picture of that one. That would have definitely been number one, but that thing never got released, thankfully. Just so you know what I'm talking about, this thing. This disgusting monstrosity. I don't know if I'll find a picture of it. This thing. This was shown off at the Expo this year. This freaking weirdo clown this guy. Where he talks and a baby comes out of his chest. And even the people in the comments are making fun of it, but, this didn't get released, so it's not fair I can't talk about it. If it did get released, hell yeah, I'd be talking about it. So we're going to get back into the list, and you might have seen some already, so I'm just going to jump into it. Anyway, no Sunstar props, because if it was, the entire list would be Sunstar props, and no tabletops, because there's way too many tabletops for me to go through. Alright, let's begin. Number 10. Lurching Vampire, the 2010 model. Now, please, before you dislike, hear me out on this one. I know most of you are probably already disliked the video and you're commenting this and that and whatever, but you have to hear me out on this one. This is only for the 2010 model. The 2011 model is actually a great Halloween prop. One of my favorites, actually, ever. The best Halloween props ever made. But this 2010 model is total garbage. So you're probably wondering, how? How is it garbage? Well, it's actually the way that the poles are. So on the 2010 model, it's snap to lock. Or no, it's twist to lock. Where on the 2011, it's snap to lock. Which, the poles are so thin and weak that they usually snap and break. And I've mentioned it many a times before in the past. But this prop is known to break, like completely stop working, after 4 activations. Imagine buying a new prop from Spirit and it stops working after the 4th time you've used it. So that's honestly the only reason it's on here, and that's why it's so low on the list. Because other than that, if you can, make the pole story on a 2010, it's a great prop, and it's just as good as the 11 model. But a prop that breaks after 4 activations had to be mentioned here. So anyway, let's move on to number 9. Number 9, the pop-up zombie toilet. Now, I'm going to say this. There are other spirit props on this list, and this is not the worst spirit prop. However, this is, without a doubt, the stupidest prop Spirit has ever sold. So, basically, it's a toilet, and the head of a zombie pops out of the toilet, and it goes back in. Yup, the head of a zombie. Just a flying head? Huh? And it sometimes doesn't even pop out right, or I've seen it not pop out at all, and it looks really, and when the head pops out, it's really cheap because you could see all the hot glue they used for the hair, and his face looks really bad because it's just painted styrofoam, and it's not scary at all because something's going to come out of the toilet anyway, so yeah, this prop is just, is so stupid. But I actually think with a little bit of work, this concept could be turned into something really cool, but this prop is way too many problems for it to be, for it not to be on the list. So anyway, let's move on to number 8. Number 8. The Home Depot crouching werewolf. Now, if this one doesn't speak for itself, I really don't know what to say. I'm saying it as a joke, obviously, but like you're just a lost cause if you can't figure out the problem with this one. I mean, there's everything. Everything's wrong with this picture. I mean, he looks like a chimpanzee. I mean, isn't a werewolf supposed to just be a human wolf? So it's basically a human, but with a wolf head, imagine, and fur. So what human looks like this? If this guy was standing full feet, he'd be like 12 feet tall. If this guy was standing full height, let me think. He'd probably be about like 10 feet tall, and his arms are like 4 feet long. Whose arms are 4 feet long? How longer, I think? They look like they're like 5 feet. Oh, and the way the mouth opens is terrible too. It looks like one of those trash cans where you step on the pedal to open it. And yes, I did steal that joke from Pumpkin Market, so don't at me on that one. I mean, look at it. Have you ever seen a werewolf that looks like a chimpanzee before? My God, what were they thinking with this design? Seriously, Limb Ripper, Wolf Spitter, the Howler, and Cage Beast are like the only werewolves that actually look like people. All the Home Depot werewolves don't even look like people. They look like monsters. I thought a werewolf was supposed to just be a human with fur on it. I don't know. Maybe kids these days like chimpanzee. Maybe a chimpanzee turned into a werewolf. I don't know. I really don't know what to say about this one, but let's move on to number 7. Number 7. The Michaels 2020 Skeleton Fortune Teller. So you're probably going, it looks fine. What's wrong with it? Well, a lot of things are wrong with it. Number 1, this prop is unbelievably cheap. Like, think of all the props that Seasonal Visions released this year. They released the wonderful Candy Creep and Mr. Happy. They released the wonderful remakes of Uncle Charlie the Gatekeeper and Flesh Eating Zombie. They've released so many good props this year, SVI. And then they released this thing. They released Catacomb Creature, Cuddles the Clown, Mr. Salty clowning around. So many great props, and then they make this thing. I mean, it's just wearing a black cloth with like some yellow like cloth over it, and it's just a generic skull head, and it just talks, and that's it. And like its arms move, I think a little. It just moves a tiny bit. I mean, this was released the same year as Candy Creep, and it cost at the same price as Candy Creep. This thing costed $300 at Michael's. Oh, but that's not really the main reason it's on here. Well, I did want to include an SVI prop, and this is probably the worst SVI prop ever. But the main reason is the mouth movement. Oh my God, the mouth movement. The mouth doesn't even slightly look like it's imitating what the words coming out of the voice box. It's not even close. There's one point where his mouth is moving and he's not saying or doing anything. His mouth just keeps moving. This is easily the worst, which is why I included it, because I wanted a really bad SVI prop, and honestly, SVI is pretty damn good. Honestly, I actually had a hard time finding one of their props to put on here, but this one definitely had to be on here when I remembered that this thing existed, when I was making up the list. So yeah, this thing's terrible, and hopefully SVI never makes something like this again, and I hope this is just like a one-time thing, and it's not like a stain on the whole company, like, like other companies. So anyway, let's move on to number 6. Number 6, the popping goblin. Now, for anyone who's saying, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with this prop. On the surface, yes, there is nothing wrong with this prop. This prop is actually pretty cool. I like the pumpkin. I like the concept. I like the goblin. I like the audio. I like the price. I like everything. It's a very nostalgic prop. I have a lot of memories of seeing him in store, so he means even more to me. So what's the problem with him? Well, it's a similar problem to Lurching Vampire, where there's nothing actually wrong with him, but one little thing ruins the whole prop, and the one on this prop is I don't even know how to say it without just saying it, so I'm just gonna say it like it is. this prop's motor and all of the components get so hot that it can actually engulf in flames. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. A Halloween prop can engulf your home in flames overnight because of a crappy motor. This thing is notoriously a fire hazard. So, for those merits alone, it had to be on the list. But everything else with it is pretty solid. I like this prop, but the fact that it can kill you, like for real kill you, that had to put it on the list. So let's move on to number 5. Number 5, the Lowe's werewolf. Yeah, this thing's just awful in every sense of the word. And now you're probably yelling at me, but you said you like normal proportion werewolves. You said that with the crouching werewolf earlier, and this is a perfect proportion werewolf. Yes, honestly, on the surface, this thing is just fine. But that's the big problem with it. You think it's fine, but it's actually horrible. Now, you're never going to believe who made this thing. You're probably thinking, Morbid? Seasonal Visions? Nope, Jemmy made it. Yeah, the same company that made Dr. Shivers, Count Vigor, Graves the Fat Butler, the Life-Size Cage Skeleton, the Brain Monster, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, all these wonderful props. The Top Hat Candelabra Skeleton, so many Dawn of the Dead. They also made this thing. And with the exception of the mouth, nothing on this prop uses Jemmy components. It's crappy pole-based, it's cheap, it's so poorly made, like the stomach caves in, so it looks like it's like starving to death. The audio is honestly the funniest. When I first heard the audio for this thing, I was dying of laughter. It goes, Ow. It sounds like he's constipated. It sounds like a constipated werewolf. The head barely turns. The mouth moves so little, it shouldn't even have had a moving mouth. And the eyes just don't make sense. Again, werewolves are humans. Why do they give... That's another... I mean, I understand they need lights to charge more for it, but all those good werewolves even, they have lights in their eyes. So I guess werewolves have lights, but I don't know. This seems weird. But like, the mechanism and all the parts and everything are so cheap and terrible. And this is a disgrace to Jemmy's name, but honestly, compared to the other Jemmy props on this list, yes, there's more. This is one of the better ones. So, anyway, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, the wheelchair granny. Now, some of you might be screaming right now, going, What? What? This isn't on the list? How is this not on the list? This has to be. Well, it's not. Or it's not higher on the list. You probably thought this was going to be number 1, but honestly, this prop is terrible. But I actually have some things I like about it. Yeah, I said that. Well, not much. The face is kind of okay in this stock photo, and the axe looks good. Like, there's actual blood on the axe. Yeah, that's it. This prop just kind of speaks for itself on why it's so bad, so I'm really not going to sit here and just tell you the same things you already know, but, I will just go over it quickly. The rising mechanism is too loud, the animation looks horrible, the phrases are garbage, it's offensive to senior citizens. Why do its eyes light up? It's an old woman. It has, the poor woman, they couldn't even pretend to give her legs. The wheelchair doesn't even look like it could sit anything. It's a very poorly made prop. So, that's most of it. So anyway, let's move on to number 3. At number 3, we have the Spirit Halloween walking chipmunk girl thing. Now, since this was sold at Spirit, I am considering this the worst prop ever sold by Spirit. Yes, worse than one that I'll be talking about in a little bit. This is a joke. I don't even know where to start with this prop. The animation is atrocious. The voice is atrocious and clearly text-to-speech. The translation job is so horrible. You'd think that they use Google Translate for it. It looks terrible. It looks so cheap and plasticky. I feel like if I stare at it too long, it's going to break. It looks atrocious. It has a chipmunk noise. That's one of the phrases, is a chipmunk noise. You know that stock noise that they use in like YouTube videos of a chipmunk? It's that same noise in this prop. But you're probably wondering, well, if it's that bad, why is it not number one? Well, I wasn't gonna put it at number one, but it only costed $100, so at least it's not robbing you while it's at it. So I'm just looking at this thing. It's awful, man. I can't believe this thing even existed. I can't even believe it even made it past the production phase. But anyway, let's move on to number two. At number two, we have the Lowe skeleton couple. Now, this is new for this year, and this is now. If it wasn't for number one, I'd say this is easily the worst Gemmy life size ever created. Easily. Oh, well, I'll just talk about him now. I was gonna do honorable mentions, but I clicked. So, I'll get back to him in a minute, actually. I mean, look at this disaster. Their faces are so cheap. It uses pole based. It says Gemmy on the box, but it's not Gemmy. It doesn't even look like it was made by Gemmy. It looks like it was made in as a bootleg, and Gemmy just put their name on it. The animation again is terrible. The phrases are just so boring and bland. That's actually the best part of the phrases. The clothes don't even fit. I mean, his jacket, his suit jacket doesn't even fit him. The clothes look terrible. And this stock photo makes them look great. And they look horrible in this photo. And they actually this is the best I've seen them. In real life, they look so much worse than this. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And this thing cost it $200. And it's not, and they're putting Gemmy on the box and it doesn't even use Gemmy components. Not one. At least the werewolf had one Gemmy component, but nope, this monstrosity has none whatsoever. So anyway, let's move on to our honorable mentions. For our first honorable mention, we have Johnny Punk. Now, this is the one I was talking about earlier when I said the worst, that prop that everyone calls the worst spirit prop, but doesn't it sound crazy? Everyone hates this prop. I actually like this prop. Quite a bit, actually, which is the reason it's not on the list. If I made this list back when Johnny Punk was first shown, he probably would have been number one. But that's also because we didn't have any video of number one at the time. I like him, but I don't know if it's in an ironic sense or not. I really can't tell, but there's something just about him. I just kind of I think the idea of a bully is just kind of funny, but it's also kind of like a childhood trauma thing. Like if someone was bullied as a kid, it would be kind of more scarring than just getting talked to by a reaper or something. They kind of bring back memories of of being a kid. I think that actually makes it kind of cool. A lot of people say he looks bloated, but I don't really see the bloated part. I think it's just a stock photo. And the swinging did look bad, but that's because in the Spirit demo video, they had him too low to the ground, so he couldn't even swing right because his feet were stuck to the ground. His feet kept hitting the grass, the ground, so he couldn't even swing right. But I like this one. Now for honorable mention number two, this is the complete opposite situation. I think it's number two. Yeah, number two. L.E. Hatchet. Now, a lot of people like this prop, which is why it's not on the list. This list is my personal opinions, but I had to be fair because a lot of people like this prop. Like a ton of people like this prop. Personally, though, I despise this prop. Like, I genuinely think this is the worst prop Spirit has ever sold. In stores, at least. In store. I don't like anything about this prop. I don't like the phrases. I don't like the clothing. I don't like her face. I think the animation is so lame and predictable. I think she's overpriced as hell. People make fun of Johnny Punk for being 160, and this is 160. She literally has one animation where her arms go down. I mean, Rusty and the Smiling Jack Greeter at Party City has an extra animation and costs $20 more. And if you buy him at the right place, he comes with a chair. This comes with nothing, and it's $160. All it does is it swings down an axe. That's it. And most of them break because it swings the axe down so hard that it shatters the plastic gears inside. But a lot of people do like this prop, and I don't really see how people like this prop, but if you like this prop, then that's good on you, man. But I think this prop is absolutely horrible. Honorable mention number three. The 2013 Hex remake. Now, I didn't include this prop on the list because there's nothing inherently wrong with him, but but there's a bunch of problems with him. Number one, he's the prop that basically led. He was the droplet of water that led to the storm, or the snowflake that led to the avalanche. Because he was honestly one of the first major signs that Morbid was going down. I mean, in 2013, they brought back three props, three of their classics: the Face Ripper Clown from Spirit, the Spasm, and Hex. Now, if Hex isn't the worst of them, then I don't really want to know which one is. Now, for Face Ripper Clown, he was basically the same, just cheaper. And Spasm went away from the latex, but I actually think like the animation on him was more noticeable. This prop just ruined everything. Rather than going from a beautiful latex like that the original used, it instead like has cheap plastic and awful looking clothing. Rather than having him look menacing and like in the original he was like grasping onto his chest like he was like he was like having a panic attack or freaking out or just like he was crazy. Now it's trying to just look like his arms are out on the side like he's like trying to give you a hug or something. His face looks terrible on this one too. On the original it looked a lot better. And the head on the original was latex. This is not. So, I mean like but all the animation works, it's still Hex. At the root of it, it's still Hex. But this prop, it did lead to this prop was the snowfall that led to the avalanche, so it had to be mentioned here of Morbid. But it is bad in my opinion, but there's nothing like that wrong with it. It's just little things that really like tick me off about it. So let's move on to honorable mention number 4. The Morbid Pennywise. Now, again, there's nothing really wrong with this prop. There are things, but there's nothing like horrible about it. It actually looks pretty cool. It actually looks like Pennywise from the movie. I remember this was the first, like massively produced Pennywise animatronic. We didn't have the Spirit and the Gemmy one. This was the first one in 2018. And for the first one, it honestly isn't that horrendous as many people say it is. I will say though, the voice actor is garbage for this prop. He sounds horrible. But honestly, other than that, and possibly his cheap quality being an issue, there's nothing really wrong with this prop. The animation is just fine. It's kind of cool. He reaches out for you. The actual lines, not the line delivery, but the actual lines Pennywise says are, in character and they fit. And like I said, he looks pretty cool. They actually managed to make his hips look, wide like in the movies, and they gave him a balloon and all. And the head actually kind of looks like Pennywise. So, this prop does have its problems, which hurt it a lot, but it wasn't bad enough to be on the list bad. It's just bad in a sense of it could have been better. If it was built better and it actually used Pennywise's voice, then I think I'd honestly like it a lot, honestly. But, those things did hurt it a lot. So let's move on to honorable mention number 5. Here we have the 2010 model of Demonica. Same exact problem as Lurching Vampire. Very, very faulty. But to be fair, this prop doesn't break after 4 activations, so this one definitely wouldn't make the list. But it is faulty though. So if you do have one of these and it's fully working, just be careful with it because the wires come off really easily. But other than it being faulty, again, there's nothing wrong with this item. It's a cool item. So now we're gonna move. I'm trying to think of if there's any other props I really missed. I was going to include the 2010 Uncle Charlie for his absolutely atrocious quality, but Uncle Charlie is such an iconic character that I feel like you could pretty easily overlook the quality, and his phrases are great, his voice is really creepy, and I have a lot of nostalgia for Uncle Charlie, even if he isn't the best, but he didn't deserve to be on a bad list. He's definitely more in the mediocre territory, where the good outshines the bad, but the bad is still prevalent with Uncle Charlie. So, anyway, we are going to move on to number 1. Now, if you've been catching on to my cues, you know exactly what it is. But you won't guess exactly what it is, because it's actually a double pick. Number 1 is the 2 Michael Myers. The 2018 Morbid Michael and the 2020 Gemmy Michael. Now, you're probably wondering, why 2 props for the same, number? Why couldn't you just do 2? Well, number 1, why would I make 2 separate things for 2 Michaels? And number 2, they're the exact same prop. Literally, they're just this is the morbid one, and this is the Jemmy one. All they did was just took this one and just slightly redesigned it. And like many people have said, they made it worse somehow. So, if Jemmy couldn't be bothered to make an original Michael Myers, why should I be bothered to make a different number for them? And like I said, they both have the exact same problems, but this one is definitely the worst one. Yeah, I'm saying that this one is actually, that this atrocity is actually better than something. Because this is the worst prop ever released, in my opinion. That isn't a Sunstar prop. So, let's go over we're going to go over this one, and then we're going to go over this one. We're going to save this one for last, because I have a lot to say about this one. So, for this one, his hands, the paint job on them is atrocious. His hands don't even look bloody. It looks like a kid took a red marker and just drew on him. His hands are bloody, but his knife is perfectly clean. Well, I understand in Halloween 2 he wore a green jumpsuit, but I don't think it was this green. Why does he look like a pancake? Why is he so flat? It looks like someone ran him over with a steamroller. What the hell is going on with his face? Again, it looks like someone drew like on a white mask with no detail on it. They just drew on it. What's wrong with his hair? It doesn't look like Michael Myers' hair at all. It kind of looks like an Italian. He looks like kind of like a New York City greaser, almost. His head doesn't even look like it's attached to his body. Like, it clearly is just a piece of plastic on cloth. Like, it doesn't look like an actual person. It doesn't even play the Halloween music. It just breathes. It just goes like the Jemmy ones. The animation is terrible. The knife just goes up and down as slowly as it possibly can. No shock at all. It just goes up and down so slowly. So that's all I have to say about this one. Now, let's go over to this one, which take all the problems about this one and then toss them over to this one. Except there's more problems. His mouth, the mouth on this prop is hilarious. I made a joke on one of the comments that it looks like Michael Myers has a serious case of diarrhea. Like, why is his mouth like so like? It looks like he's like cringing. Like, what's he like? What's going on? Like, is he watching like some? Is he watching some like inappropriate movie or something that he doesn't like? Like, what's going on with his face? And there's just like these random black spots all over his mask. Like, does he have a beard? Does he have a beard and a unibrow? Like, what are these? His eyes don't even look like eyeballs. They're just painted on plastic. They don't even look like they're part of the mask. And I complained about this one's hair, but what is that? He looks like freaking Anakin Skywalker from the Phantom Menace. I mean, Jesus. What is wrong with this prop? I mean, I will say that was an okay touch. That looks better than it being closed like this one. But what is that outfit? Why is it neon blue? I mean, is Michael Myers trying to kill you, or is he running in a marathon? I mean, why this shade of blue? I mean, it looks like he's wearing a beach towel or something. Like, is Michael Myers' advertisement for, like, a PlayStation 4 or something? Like, he's like that, like, blue on the box of the PlayStation games. Oh my god, the worst part of this prop is the audio by far. The audio for this prop sounds like an iPhone ringtone, and it also sounds like a baby playing on a xylophone. If you haven't heard it, just go look up the demo for the Jemmy 2020 Michael Myers, and you'll hear the audio, and you'll just die laughing, because everyone thought it was just the trailer music, and they didn't actually play the audio, but no, it was the actual audio for this thing. So yeah, total disaster, disappointment, garbage pile. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you agree with a good amount of choices on the list, and if you didn't, let me know what you would change. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.